started with that. Okay, 5 times 2 is 10. And put the 0 and carry the 1. What's 5 times 7?
35.
35 plus 1 more. 36. So your top row should be 360. Okay, we're done with that, and we add that 0. 3 times 2? 6. 3 times 7? 21. All right, add them up here. And we've got 2,520. Your second row here should have been 2,160. Just kind of helps to look at each of those steps in case, if you've gone wrong somewhere. Okay. All right. Let's just let that be our warm-up today. How about? Okay. Go ahead and put the top on your marker and slide that board over just out of your way. We'll come back to it. We're going to be working today with something kind of familiar and adding it into what we've been doing. Our little target here says I can express, what's that word? Money. Okay, amounts. I can express money amounts given in various forms as decimal numbers. Okay, so sometimes when we think about working with money, oh, it's easy, I got it, no problem. And it's not super difficult. We're just going to be using that as our supply of decimal numbers. That's probably one of the most common places that we will see my decimal numbers. And in a lot of jobs that most people will have, you deal with money somehow, even if it's just your own paycheck. You want to be able to read it. You want to know that it's correct. And this is the thing. When you get grown and you start, working and you have a job and you get a paycheck. I get my paycheck. And most of the time, of course, it usually just goes straight to the bank but there's a little printout that tells me about it. And it also tells me the things that have come out of my check, the things I've had to pay for, like insurance, like all kinds of other things that you are not super familiar with right now, because that's just not in the kid world, okay? But you know what? I need to be able to look at how much I make and be able to subtract those things and know that they've been subtracted correctly so that I'm getting the right amount of money from my paycheck. I know that's a little over our heads, but you want to be able to make sure when you go buy something from a store or online or however that you purchase it, that if you get change back, you've gotten the right amount of change back. You want to know, hey, this amount plus this amount equals this amount. It's just something you're going to use a lot in your everyday life. And so no matter what job you have one day. And so, everybody has to go to the store and buy something eventually, groceries, whatever. And so we want to, this is something that's going to be in our real world, and we want to know how to use it well. So how does this go along with decimals and even fractions, really? Okay, what would you think?
With the money, we're having a decimal for the cents and the dollars. That's like a decimal form.
Yeah, because that's how we see it, isn't it? We see when money's written, let's say we have $5 and 32 cents. What's usually sitting right here to tell us this is money?
The dollar sign.
That dollar sign, okay? And I've seen it with one line through it. Some will have two lines through it. Just depends on the style of font, I guess, that you're using. But yes, here is our whole numbers. That's our whole dollars, okay? And here is our change, isn't it? Okay? And so this is a decimal number that goes out to the hundreds place, which we're becoming a lot more familiar with. Sometimes it just comes out to the, but in money, if you had $5 and say 30 cents, you're going to put that zero. Even though 5.3 is equal to 5.30, we're going to write it with that zero with money. You rarely ever see just 5.3, yeah. So, yes, that's just the style our money is written in. And so, now, think of it this way, too. How many pennies, I guess you could also say how much change, but how many pennies are in a dollar? Yeah. It takes 100 pennies to make a dollar. Okay, think about that. That goes right along with what we've been talking about, as well as, is this the right one? No. I need to hide away all my yardsticks and just have my meter sticks out. That's not one either. Yeah, but no, that one's larger. They're great when you need to draw something, a straight line forever or whatever. The reason it's important that I pull one of these out is because this has the exact number of centimeters that I want it to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, this has 100 centimeters in it. This is a meter stick. A meter stick, 1 meter has 100 centimeters. $1 has 100 cents, or 100 pennies equals a dollar. Okay, so it can easily go right along with what we've been talking about. So if I asked you, okay, we know fractions can go easily with this as well. If I asked you what fraction I would write if I have 1 penny, okay, what fraction of a dollar is 1 penny? Now, how many pennies does it take to make a whole dollar? You just said, everybody, 100. So if I have one of those, what's my fraction? Mason? 1/100. Okay. This is, 1 cent or a penny is the same as 1/100th. Okay. And so how would we write that as a decimal? What do you think? 0.1. Well, that's 1/10. What would it?
0.01.
Yeah. Okay, so our decimal would look like this. Okay, so if you walked into a store and it had a price tag on something, it was just, maybe they were having a 1 cent sale. And that type of thing used to be a lot more common back in the day, a long time ago. Things have gotten a lot more expensive through the years. So, huh?
They used to do that.
Well, you'd hear of things like penny candy. Like you could walk into some stores and they'd have candy for a penny a piece, and yeah, things were a lot less expensive years and years and years and years ago. And just as time has gone on, things have gotten more expensive.
So with a quarter, you can buy 25 candies.
Mm-hmm. Maybe like the single piece candy, maybe not a whole candy bar, but I wasn't. Maybe I was. I don't know if I was around much, but let's not get off on those stories right now. We're going to hear that periodically, especially this morning. It's just heavier rain.
And you can crawl down.
Yeah. It's not supposed to storm, I don't think. So it's just heavier rain. It'll be lighter, it'll be heavier, lighter, heavier.
It's going to make me sleep.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, I'm fighting it. Between the time change and this rain, we're having to really work hard to pay attention. So stay with me. Okay, guys, we're here. Okay. All right. So this is how you'd write it, and you might even see that on a price tag if somebody was having a penny sale. Maybe they might say something like, "Buy one at full price." And you can have this one too for a penny. You know, you may have a sale or something going on. Anyway, all right. So we're gonna keep moving through how some of these things look as a fraction and as a decimal. Okay. We just did that. I could flip over to these, I guess. I'm trying to think whether I want to flip over. I guess I can for a little bit. It doesn't really matter that much, but maybe it will hold our attention a little better. You have to make me, y'all are gonna make me have to do a song and dance to get your attention. Okay. So how many cents is this? How many cents is that? Okay. It is 7 cents. All right. Now, this might have. Don't do it. Shoot. It moved. Okay. At one point in your life, maybe you wrote 7 cents that way. Maybe you've seen it with the cent sign in front. That looks a little weird. Okay. But now we're older. We're getting more grown. We understand that this is 7/100. It is also 0.07. Now this is where money is where you really want to be accurate in how you write this, because there's a big difference in 70 cents and 7 cents. Especially if you're standing there at the cash register and the lady or the man that's checking you out is saying, you owe this much money, and you're digging because you thought it was 7 and it's really 70, and you don't have enough to pay. Or maybe it's about getting your change back and you're supposed to get 70 back, but they only give you 7, Or maybe one day you're the cashier and somebody's buying something and you've got to hand them back. Yeah, well, the cash register says, it tells me exactly how much, but can I have the money? Can I pull the money out of the drawer that matches the amount on the screen? Well, we can with lots of practice. All right. Yeah. It really isn't once you get used to working with it. Okay. So we want to practice writing some number sentences, addition sentences, that type of thing. Sometimes it's going to be multiplication. Write a number sentence to show these values as cents, as a fraction of a dollar, and in decimal form. So we're practicing writing a number sentence or a math problem. And we're going to write our amounts as a fraction and a decimal just to get that practice. So how much is a penny, guys? Everybody.
1 cent.
1 cent. Okay, so this is an easy multiplication. 1 times 31 is how much cents?
31.
Okay, so on your board, we're just doing this one right now. On your board, I want you to write 31 cents as a fraction and as a decimal. It takes 100 of those pennies to make $1. So what fraction of a dollar is 31 cents? And then what does that look like as a decimal? Alright, so what does the fraction look like? Faith, what do you think? Alright, Faith is saying 31 hundredths. I'll write that down. Anybody agree with that? Is that what you had? Is that what anybody else had? Just a couple people? Okay, that is correct. I think I saw that on a lot of boards. Okay, so what does the decimal look like? Valerie, what would the decimal look like? 31 hundredths. We've written that as a decimal before. Brandon, help her out. 0.31. Okay, isn't that 31 hundredths? And so we've seen this already. It's just now we're putting it in the context of money. We're bringing that idea on. Okay. Alright, so what about 80? Let's try the same thing with 80 and clear your board. If you have space and you want to put all of these on there, that's fine. Alright, so now that we know what we know about 31, what would 80 look like as a fraction of a dollar and as a decimal? Okay. Alright, what would it look like as a fraction? 81 hundredths. What would it look like as a decimal? Martin, what do you think?
A decimal, it would look like
0.80. Okay. 31 hundredths, 80 hundredths. Okay. Because I know that a lot of you think I don't have to have that zero, but in money, if you don't, you're talking about tenths then and not hundredths, and so it makes you think you're not talking about money. Okay. All right, and this last one, what would it be with 100? Okay. What would the fraction be, Charlotte? 100 100ths. Okay. And then what would that look like as a, how do I write that as a decimal? Jayla? 1.0. Now, we're talking money, so let's do this. Y'all watch. 1.0. Alright, if I have that, this is correct. But if it's money, how would we write it? We would write it a little different. Well, what would we do? We would add that other zero because it seems like every time we look at money, there's always two places right there after the decimal. Okay? Now, 100 100ths is what? What is that decimal you just wrote? Look at it when it has the 1.00. What does it look like?
$1. $1.
Okay, we see that a lot of places. Go to the dollar store. Look around. Okay? Go to Dollar Tree. Look around. Go to Five Below. Look around. Go to any store and look around. Okay? Actually, well, anyway. I was fixing to tell you something about the dollar. Just left me. That's okay. All right, I think I messed this slide up. Let me see. All right, we're going to jump over the tape diagram today and go right here. Okay, so let's move on to a different piece of money. You don't always work with pennies when you're dealing with money. Okay, so sometimes you're working with, what is this? This is the dime. This is the little itty bitty one. Money is strange, isn't it? That it's not the smallest piece that has the smallest amount. This is worth how much? 10 cents. Okay, we know that. We gotta get your money right. Is that what it says? Okay. That Go Noodle is helping us remember. Okay. So if I've got 10 cents in one of these, what am I? If I have 8 of them, how much change am I going to have?
Yeah,
80 cents. 8 times 10. This is the same as 10 times 8. How would that look as a fraction? 80 what?
80
100ths. Okay, we know this is 80. 10 times 8 is not 80 100ths. That looks wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is 10 times.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it does. I'm trying to think.
10
I'm
times-
trying not to get ahead of 4th grade to show you a couple things.
10 times 8.
Because we don't multiply decimals in 4th grade. Well, we know a dime is 81. No, we don't, do we? Hold on. There we go. We know 1 dime is 10 100ths. If we multiplied that by 8, what would that be? Think about our multiplying fractions a few days ago. What would that turn into? What fraction? Yeah. 80 100ths. Okay, you don't need to do that so loud. Okay, So there's our 80/100ths, which is our 80 cents. And what does that look like as a decimal? Oh, wow. You have to go back a few days. What does that look like as a decimal? Come on, come on, come on. Yeah. 0.80. Okay. What happens if I have 10 dimes? Everybody should know this. It becomes much more important to you as you get older. What happens when you have 10 dimes? You have a whole dollar. Okay. You kind of need to automatically start knowing, oh, I need 100 pennies to get a dollar. I need 10 dimes to have a dollar. I need 20 nickels to make a dollar. I need 4 quarters to make a dollar. Those dollars become more and more important. I started driving a car, fixing to run out of gas. I had to pull into the gas station and dig through the change that had fallen into my floorboard to have enough gas to get home. I found about 80 cents. It was enough gas to get me home, but it wasn't much. Money makes a difference as you get older. All right, makes a difference now too. All right. It was a mixture. I didn't care what it was in. I would have gladly given them 80 cents in pennies if that's what it took to get me home. Okay, but this is where we're headed today. I know that what we were just doing, some of that you already know a lot about, okay? But what if, it never seems to work out perfectly, like if I'm going to a store or somebody gives me change back, that I look in my hand and everything they've handed me is the same type of money. You know, it's not all nickels, it's not all dimes where I can just go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. No, it's a mixture, okay? And so we're going to do some practicing of counting up what the mixtures are sometimes. So if we had 7 dimes and 2 pennies, just ignore this red. We'll do that, but we're not jumping right to that immediately. What I want to ask you is to turn this into an addition. Let me take that back. Into a number sentence. Into a math problem, because it might have addition and it might have multiplication too. Okay? So if I have 7 dimes and 2 pennies, and I want to think of maybe, the easiest or quickest way to add that up, Will, what would you do? Okay. So if we automatically know 7 dimes, 70. We might think of this as 70 plus 2. Okay. What is another way we could write this? And I know that you might not need to do this for this problem, but you might need it down the road for another problem we do. Okay? What if I asked you to add some multiplication in there? I've got 7 this many times, or I've got this 7 times. Yeah.
You could do 7 times 10, and then you would add 70, and then 2 pennies.
Okay. Or I could even say 2 times 1 if I had to add the multiplication. Now, why did Miss Wendy just do that? Because a dime is worth how much? 10 cents. And a penny is worth how much? 1 cent. I've got this 10 cents 7 times. And I've got this 1 cent 2 times. Now, like I said, we can do this one without doing all that. I know that. But there's going to come a time when we've got quarters and dimes and nickels, that we might need to set something up like that. So this becomes 70, and this becomes 2, and together it's 72 cents. There we go, 0.72. Sometimes the 0 is there, and sometimes it's not. Okay. All right, let's try this one. All right, we're bringing in the quarter. How much is the quarter, everybody?
25
cents. Now, I don't know my 25s. Yeah, but you need to. You need to. We need to know our 15s and we need to know our 25s. What thing hanging on my wall in this room helps you with 15s? The clock. Okay? And this right here, money, helps you knowing your 25s. You need to know 1 quarter, 25 cents, 2 quarters, how much? 50, 3 quarters, 75, 4 quarters,
$1.
$1 or 100 cents. You just need to know that, Okay? Now that might not be something you know right now, but let that be something you learn. Yeah. Okay. All right, so how could we set this up as a math problem? I'm gonna say let's add in. I don't want just an answer. Let's either do addition or mix in some multiplication with it. Go ahead, Martin.
25, 50 plus 30.
Plus 30.
And plus 6.
Okay. Now you have to remember we're going to write our answers as a fraction and as a decimal. So as a fraction, what would our answer be? Will, what would our answer be as a fraction? 86 hundredths. It's still hundredths because all this change, it still takes 100 cents to make $1. Okay, what would the decimal then be, everybody? 0.86. Okay. Now, it can be very simple. And yet, people get confused by it and make mistakes with it all the time. You also could have done 2 times 25. What if you don't know what that is? What if you can't remember what 2/4 is? Then take it and turn it like this. 25 times 2. We know how to do this type of multiplication. There's really no excuse anymore for not knowing those amounts. Okay?
Decimals are easy.
3 times 10, 6 times 1. Okay? And then we would add them all together. Okay. All right, we're kind of towards the end here of what we're doing. So we're going to practice. We are going to practice some in our problem set today. I'm just going to pick and choose a few of the different types of problems that are in there. And then we're going to practice in another way that's outside of our book that I'll explain in a little bit. Let's go ahead and take our break there.